but he is the first president to perhaps go through with something so large without necessarily taking part in some of the regulatory agencies or approval processes that others had thought this would have to be subjected to. But really, the White House is such a uniquely symbolic building. It's a residence, it's obviously a place of work, and it's a place where the current resident, the president, does have the discretion to go through with some of these projects. He says that he is paying for it himself along with those donors that you mentioned, but we know that the East Wing has to be completely replaced, and it's unclear whether there will be a new structure there that will house some of the things that it used to, like where the First Lady would work or some of her staff, where the calligraphers work, and where others had traditionally been stationed, to now make way for this massive ballroom.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that East Wing had been there since the 1940s, right? FDR. Monica, the federal government shutdown is now in day 21. It's now the longest full shutdown in U.S. history. President Trump, I know, had lunch with Senate Republicans today. Did we learn anything about where talks stand on ending the shutdown?
Well, we got an insight into the president's thinking and how Republicans are approaching this. And essentially, this was a thank you lunch for holding the line, for sticking together, for continuing, the president said, to vote to try to see if they can get that House-passed bill approved, to see if they can reopen the government, at least in a short-term function. But we know that that has failed a number of times and will continue, it seems, to fail. And the president essentially encouraged Republicans to continue to hold the line and not necessarily to talk about any potential negotiations, even though we know that others and Democrats certainly have been raising their hands to say they want to sit down with the president to see if there can be a resolution to this pretty lengthy shutdown.
Yeah. All right, Monica Alba for us. Thanks, Monica.
Also this hour, we are tracking the legal fight over the Trump administration's plans to deploy the National Guard to Portland, Oregon.
Yesterday, a federal appeals court ruled that the president can send the Oregon National Guard to that city. The judges overturned a lower court's order blocking the deployment of state troops. But that same court had also issued a second order which prevents the administration from sending National Guard troops from other states into Portland. That order is still in effect.
NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin is on the ground in Portland. Also with us, NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach in Washington. Gary, let's start with you. What does this ruling mean for National Guard troops? Will they ultimately be deployed to Portland right away?
Yeah, you guys laid it out well there. If they're members of the Oregon National Guard, legally they can be deployed to the streets of Portland as soon as this very second. But will they is the real question, the question that we don't really have an answer to. And it's a question that the governor of Oregon, Tina Kopak, also would like an answer to.
We have approximately 200 Oregon National Guard members still at Camp Rylea in limbo, as well as the California National Guard members at Camp Withicum. No idea of the mission, no idea of the timeline. I still urge the Trump administration to send all the National Guard members home.
Now, if the state of Oregon wishes, they certainly can appeal this ruling by the circuit court to the Supreme Court. We have no sense if they're going to do that, but they can do that at any point. The White House, however, is viewing this as a victory. They say in part, quote, this ruling reaffirms that the lower court's ruling was unlawful and incorrect. So this is certainly going to play out in the courts in the hours and days to come, guys.
And Dana, let me go to you. You're in Portland, you're downtown somewhere, I believe. As we await potential deployment of troops, what are you seeing? What are you hearing there?
Yeah, so Kate, we are actually right outside that ICE facility where we've seen all the demonstrations over the last several weeks and months. And this morning, it's been very quiet. We did see several trucks pull up, called the Rapid Response Team. They cleaned up this sidewalk of all the trash that was left behind. And you can see demonstrators have put all of their belongings right back here. I spoke to one resident who lives nearby. She's in a building. She can literally see the ICE facility, about how she feels about the potential for those troops coming in. Listen to our conversation. How do you feel about the potential for troops being deployed here in Portland?
Bottom line, what for? This is a flex about somebody's ego and not about American citizens.
And so we just turned around so you can actually see the ICE facility behind us. Now, on the flip side, you've got people in her same building who are split. They want those troops here because they think it will quell some of the tensions that we've seen just throughout several days in this part of town. Clay?
And Dana, we've also seen protests outside the ICE facility in Portland for months now. Can you remind our viewers about what exactly is happening around and in that building?
Yeah, so this building has been leased by ICE since 2011. This is a processing facility where detainees can come. They are usually held for no more than 12 hours, or at least they're not supposed to, according to the land use agreement with the city. But the city says last month they found that the facility had violated that agreement. And so this is just one of the facilities where people will come. We've seen a lot of protests, especially over the summer, because people have been upset about just the enforcement here. They've been upset about President Trump threatening to send the National Guard. So this has been like a flashpoint area for a lot of people here. And so it became the focus, and, you know, protesters have been using fireworks, and the city confirmed that even the ICE officials have been using those munitions, pepper balls, and smoke grenades. So it's they say it's a little bit of tension between both in this area.
Yeah.
St. Clay, Kate.
And yet just one part of the city of Portland, because I'm familiar with it. It's one
Yeah.
little block. Thank you so much. Let's go to
Very
Gary. Yeah, Gary, I want to ask you about what's going on in Chicago, if I may. So switch over to Chicago. Lawyers for the city and for the state of Illinois are asking the U.S. Supreme Court to block the deployment of the National Guard there. What is that argument?
Yeah, the state of Illinois is arguing that there's no rebellion on the streets of Chicago. There's no insurrection on the streets of Broadview, which is just outside of Chicago. This is nothing that the police there and the state police cannot handle themselves. They've asked the Supreme Court to overturn this ruling. We'll see what that happens. That could happen in the next few hours or even days. And that ruling by the Supreme Court could have impacts not just in Illinois, but in Texas, in Washington, D.C., and yes, in Oregon as well, guys.
All right, Gary Grumbach, Dana Griffin, thank you both.
Time now for some consumer news.